All right, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. It's Monday, March 4th, 2015. Hey, I hate it when we lose days. March 4th, it's March 3rd, isn't it? All right, March 3rd. We have Monday and Tuesday. There we go. March 3rd, 2025. There we go. Correct that. So this is Talking Niagara, and we're your talk show for Niagara Falls. Okay, so that's some bad news. Rotary Fest is cancelling. Rotary Club is cancelling Ribfest over mounting financial pressure.
Yes, that was a bit of a surprise to me, but not a
Yeah.
surprise. Both at the same time because it seemed to be so successful. But it was not a surprise to me that underneath it was losing its ability to be a moneymaker.
Well, the problem here is that they had, the one time for a long time they had a standard, they had a place to be, they had a home. Then they ended up drifting, and then they moved to this place to Rapids View Park. And I don't think a lot of people want, I don't think that was a successful move. Probably Tanya will disagree with me, but hey, I don't think it was.
Um, it's hard to say. I just put up. The equinox this year is 17 days away. It's on Thursday, November or March 20th at 5:01 a.m. is our equinox this year, and that's when after that daylight hours lengthen. Woo! Or
But we're at
more than average. That means more than half of the daylight
We're
hours.
at seven. We're at 7 a.m. and it's light right now. But of course, in a week's time, we'll be at 7 a.m. and it'll be dark again.
Yep, because we're going to spring forward.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody hates that, but we still got a government. Well, we haven't got a government. We've got a government who's prepared for the change. We need some other governments prepared for the change. Anyway, yeah. So Ribfest. Back to Ribfest.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are Rotary going to get? Else are Rotary going to do for money? Because Ribfest has been one of their mainstays.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how much revenue Ribfest brings in total from all the things that Rotary do. Obviously, Rotary has a bunch of different things that makes money for them. This would be one of them. It's a sad thing, basically, that that they're losing this moneymaker. But the problem is, you know, service clubs are having a hard time. They're having a hard
Oh,
time
yeah.
getting members. Having a hard time finding ways in which to make money. And this is a 20-year venture by the Rotary Club. It lasted for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know, and it went through even during COVID, where they managed to survive. Um,
So the pressures include declining assistance and noticeable decrease in community participation. That's basically because the community has less money.
mm,
Uh, you know, you don't go to. I've gone to the Ribfest, of course, and where they've had bands and so on, and it's been a nice little outing. At times, at different times, my boys have gone to the Ribfest and brought them home to me.
yep.
And but um, in any case, Tanya Hartford, who we know, of course, as the Rotary Club of Niagara Falls Sunrise, that she wants to extend a heartfelt thanks to everyone who has been a part of this journey, to our incredible volunteer sponsors, vendors, attendees, and all those contributed in any way. Thank you for making Ribfest a beloved tradition. But that tradition now has ended.
It's sad, but I get it. Financial pressure. They're not making the money they expected to make, and as you said, the pressure on service clubs.
Yeah, it's a struggle keeping membership up. And unfortunately, it's always a good thing to have service clubs in the area. Look at the Lions, Kiwanis, Rotary, all have contributed enormous amounts to the community.
I think they have, but do we need three in any, in the whole of the community? That's what I'm, wonder.
Well, usually each club tries to focus on different things, and there has been attempts. Our Hamilton people have tried to coordinate a bunch of different service clubs and charities together all in the same room, but it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Each one has their own little kingdom. And like I said, in our division in Kiwanis, we have done that, at least through Hamilton, have tried to coordinate the efforts of different service clubs and charities. And and when everybody's volunteer, it just doesn't happen because you need you need a devoted plan, and you need people working on it all the time. So to get them all into one room and then try to hammer out, like, why don't you take care of this part, we'll take care of that part, et cetera, et cetera. Particularly when you have a tradition. Our major focus, of course, has been on children since the very beginning, and our attitude is that if you improve the life of a child, you improve the world.
Yeah.
And each different Kiwanis club works in its own community, whereas Rotary here also does, although it does local stuff, it also does international. So the local club would do international stuff. We do international only. Every club around the world is responsible for its own area, to service its own community, and that's how we do it. But the Rotary has an aspect where it's international. But the only thing international we got involved in was Operation Eliminate, and that was to take care of infantile encephalitis, natal encephalitis, which is a disease that affects millions of people, and we've almost eliminated it throughout the world by
but that's by donation. That's by donations that are sent off from members to an international organization. Yes.
Yeah, we don't take any local money.
Yeah.
To do that. So any money we raise locally, we spend it locally.
Yeah.
But we can help other organizations with that. And first, it's like our own members may donate individually, but basically what we try to do is actually we had our junior type of Kiwanians in high schools and stuff work on that Operation Eliminate.
All right. Okay.
Neonatal encephalitis. It takes the lives of children and mothers, and it's an easy fix, but it of course it takes a long time to do that. We have to get the medicines out to where they are needed, etc.
And I've never heard it. I've never heard of it, but I understand what you're saying about it, and how it could be an easy fix if you get the right medicines to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, and of course, it's usually in the developing world you have to worry about this. We've even had UNICEF representative from the UN come and talk to us about the success of that operation. It's ongoing, but it's almost finished. We've almost eliminated neonatal encephalitis.
Yeah. All right. So I'm praying and hoping that Rotary Club goes on to, do something else of value to the community.
Yes. Rotary Club, they usually have they have dinners and things like that. They also have the same problems everybody else does. So this kind of Ribfest thing, it's kind of unfortunate that it's gone by the wayside. And I think part of that they worried that there was less community involvement, and I think that's just basically because people have less money.
Yeah. All right. A few notes. There's a special note here for you from Gary Wilkins. I won't read it out.
Bob, about that tour. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Nancy. Yeah, it's warming up in Cleveland today. Yeah, it's warm this week here. We'll get some more cold towards, I think, Wednesday's the end of the warm.
Well, it was pretty chilly yesterday. It was minus 11 there.
Yeah, it was.
I don't
Does
know what that is
Rotary
in
have a
Fahrenheit.
building? No, it does not. Right, and that's actually one of the differences between the Lions Club and Rotary. Is Rotary never did have a building, not anywhere that it has. I don't think it's got never developed buildings, did it?
We don't have one either.
Yeah.
But if you go to Stony Creek, there's a Kiwanis building there. In St. Catharines, there's the Kiwanis Aquatic Center that also houses a library. So there are some clubs that do have the money. We know that the Stanford Lions Club lost their meeting building. They sold it. It was right there close to Sobeys.
Yeah.
Portage Road there. And
a new development soon.
Yeah, so that was knocked down because they tried to make it accessible because it was an old building. It was built in 1920, and they tried to make it accessible, but that would have cost a lot of money for elevators and things like that. They had a kind of a GoFundMe thing, not a GoFundMe thing, but they appealed something like it. But they appealed to the public for extra money. They couldn't
got it.
They couldn't got it. So what choices did they have? They had to put it to the wrecking ball, and that's too bad. I had a lot of fun in there at different times. There was dances and parties and things like that. I attended there.
And yeah, you're right. A lot of the problem with there was the steps everywhere, right? I don't remember being in there more than once, but I do remember there being steps.
Yeah, steps and I don't know.
The same is true for the Legion as well.
Yeah, the independent order of the Oddfellows in St. Catharines have a long staircase up to their meeting room. It's a really nice meeting room. It's very old, and I was there recently for a concert, and they have one sort of traveling seat up the side of the staircase.
Yeah.
So I guess that is meaning accessible. They also have one on North Street. I think it's the Knights of Columbus building now, but it used to be one of the Legions, and that also has that one seat that travels up. So the idea, I remember a friend of mine who was in a wheelchair. We had to carry him all the way up the stairs and carry him all the way back down. Him in his wheelchair all the way up. And when we were trying to go to places that really were not accessible. So I don't know. And then when you do go there and you say, okay, well, we need this seat to travel up alongside that one chair that travels up alongside the staircase, half the people in the place don't know how to turn it on. And one time we're going to use that seat with him, get him out of his wheelchair, put him on the seat, take the wheelchair up separately, but nobody knew how to turn the damn thing on. And so we ended up carrying him.
And it's up the other side anyway.
Yeah, so we had to carry him up in his wheelchair anyway.
Yep.
Which can get a little dangerous, one little slip, and
Oh, yeah, very dangerous that is. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Federal polls are showing a rare and rapid shift, but uncertain whether the numbers will hold. And basically, what is happening right now is that the the Liberals have got a phenomenal rise in popularity since the end of December, or since mid-December, when Trudeau announced he would be stepping down, irrespective of who will become the new leadership. And in fact, this is now being reflected in a number of areas, because Abacus are seeing similar polls. They're basically, it's not to say that the Liberals are in the lead, but at the moment, the Conservatives have got enough for a majority, but the Liberals are fighting back.
Yeah, well, the Liberals pretty much have taken away all the conservative talking points.
Yeah.
Conservative talking points were very, very negative, and they were based on character assassination. JT is a goof, he's an idiot. Justin Trudeau doesn't know what he's doing. But they were usually focused on him, sometimes on Jagmeet Singh. Now they tried the same tact on Carney, but it doesn't work because Carney is a new element. He has a proven track record as being the economist, the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada governor. He's also he was approached by Harper way back when Harper was in government, a conservative, to help with the economy and planning finances. So he has quite a track record. They're trying to find hypocrisies in so-called carbon tax Carney. The carbon tax, of course, was touted by Carney, and now he's turned his back on it, and so has Chrystia Freeland. So
yeah, but there's a difference between responding to somebody else as an economist and how the carbon tax, if he was asked a question as an economist and saying, the carbon tax that Trudeau is proposing does this, da-di-da, whatever, and how you can see that he might well be touting it, but in fact he's not.
He has in previous years said that carbon tax works and it's a good thing. And now he's going to change the carbon tax and take away the pain at the pump, basically, or the pain at your gas bill when it comes in for heating your house. Well, they're going to take a different tack on how they're going to be responsible at reducing carbon in Canada. So,
well, according to Abacus data, the top issues facing Canada right now is the rising cost of living, Donald Trump and his administration, healthcare, housing affordability and accessibility, the economy, immigration, climate change in the environment, which is only about 16%, crime and public safety, which is about the same, job security and unemployment, inequality and poverty, threats posed by China and Russia, Chinese election interference, and indigenous reconciliation.
Well, really? It's not going to be about that. It's going to be about the economy.
Yeah.
None of those things are really going to be much talked about except for the economy.
Well,
they will do a little fluff talk on the
rising cost of living, Donald Trump, housing affordability, and the economy are going to be the one major election issues.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, right now they are in a honeymoon period, and luckily for them, they can take advantage of that honeymoon period and call an election when their numbers are high. Right now, they see their numbers going up, and some polls actually see the Liberals besting the Conservatives, which is astonishing because only months ago, the Liberals were looking as if they would be wasted.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, though, the honeymoon period will die off, and in the end, the Canadian public is very, very tired of the Liberals, and they will get rid of them. The Liberals have not governed well. They have caused an immigration problem. They have not been able to fix the immigration problem.
Yep.
They're so mamby-pamby on the immigration problem and how they're going to fix it. So they created it, and they have lackluster ways of dealing with it. I mean, when Fraser says, "Oh, well, what are you going to do about so many million people here that aren't supposed to be here? How are you going to get rid of them?" "Oh, we're depending on the honor system."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now that'll work.
Well,
Well, you got to go now. Okay, buy yourself a ticket, go back home.
well,
So as
for
soon as they know that
example,
they can every student that comes into the country knows that they can apply for refugee status, and that will delay their expulsion from the country for at least 3 years.
yeah,
So the federal government has not been able to do that. The federal government has not been able to increase investment in Canada. The federal government has not been able to
yeah,
hold back the housing problem and the rise in housing costs. The federal government did not do what it said it would do in 2015 and add a lot of money to housing. And it started to do that when it started to panic, when
yeah,
just lately in the last couple of years. So Polyev would have looked good, but he is too negative. He's very, very negative, and that character assassination he used with JT, JT being very unpopular, it worked, but it's not going to work against Carney. He's going
no.
to start to. He's going to have to take a page
Well,
out of
and
the Ford's book and be
here's
a
the
little
thing.
bit more gracious.
Yeah, and here's the thing. According to this research, Abacus is basically saying the Conservatives are in the lead when it comes to cost of living, the economy, immigration, and crime, of course. And they also see for job security and unemployment, the Conservatives are having a leading position. When it comes to Trump, healthcare, um, actually, and that's about it. Oh, climate change, then the Liberals are in the lead. Other than that, the Conservatives primarily lead everything.
Well, the healthcare thing, that's really provincial, isn't it? Money comes from the feds to the
Yeah.
province,
Oh, yeah, I
but
know.
but our broken health system here in Ontario, that's going to be on Doug Ford to fix if he can, and I hope he does. And other things like Trump, I'm not so sure, but I am sure that Polyev is going to have to change his tact. He's being called the Trump of the North because he uses Trump-like talking points, and he plays the good guy, bad guy thing. And if you notice that Doug Ford did not play the good guy, bad guy thing, he says we're better than them. We've got a better idea. We appreciate them coming along. In his acceptance speech, he congratulated the opposition. He congratulated all the candidates, no matter what stripe they may have been. He complimented them. He says we don't always agree on policy, but the fact of the matter is you joined in, you did your part, you got involved, and became part of this democracy. That is the way it should be done. There are no good guys and bad guys in politics. We
Yeah.
don't want that stupid divide that's happening in the United States to happen here. And Polyev should remember that. We don't like that kind of thing up here. Now, he's got to start looking like he's a family man. He's got to start looking like he's like the common sense type of guy, but he cannot go around with negativity, scathing negativities and
Yeah.
character
Oh,
assassination.
absolutely. And that's been the problem. That's been, I think, the problem that Polyev is facing right now. And actually, for the first time since last summer, less than half of Canadians think that that the Conservatives will win the next election. So,
Yeah, and Polyev
you know,
himself is
yeah,
not that popular a leader because he
yeah,
looks like a lippy little guy on the other side. And that's fine when you've got, but he shouldn't be his own attack dog.
yeah,
Right now, he has to show up and look like he's a dignified leader, and one of the others has to be the attack dog. For year after year, he was the attack dog, and he continued to be the attack dog when he became leader of the opposition. No, he's got to turn the attack dog job off to someone else and look like a dignified leader
yeah. He
who
needs to
doesn't
be
have a
the
chip on his
diplomat.
shoulder.
Yeah, he needs to also be the diplomat.
Yeah, and the conservative talking points that they want to sell the Canadians, they got to sell them.
Yeah.
You can't just says, well, they're really bad, so try us.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Okay, so that's kind of where we sit, and now things are moving in the polls, but there's people who are saying, really, is it that? Is it really? The question is, it's a rare and rapid shift in polling numbers, but what they're basically saying, pollsters and statisticians, is, will the numbers hold? They suspect they won't.
Probably not. No, this is very typical of, during races like this. Now, their numbers are going to go up. So Carney will, if he's smart enough, when he wins the leadership race, will call an election quickly thereafter to try to take advantage of his better polls. But the longer they wait, the worse it will be for him. Now, Trudeau tried to do that when his numbers went up during COVID. It didn't work for him. However, it did work for Ford when his numbers went up, and he did the snap election, so it worked for him. But we do need a government that we do need decision, and we are a constant threat from Trump, and the world order seems to be changing kind of rapidly. When you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Okay.
That means a government, not a lame duck government.
Yeah. Okay. European leaders are backing Zelensky after the Trump clash.
Yes. Or just before this,
Sure.
I'd like to just say that Karen Fraser sent a notice to me, and I don't know, it's hard to open now, but apparently the 407 are giving breaks. The 407.
Oh no, they are. I was going to come to that next.
Well, I think it's a good time to put it in now before people have to go off to work or something.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to know, the 407 are giving breaks between 9:30 or from 7 to 9:30 and from 3:30 to 5:30 during rush hours. You have to look it up. It's to me, it's not really clear who is eligible for this, but apparently you can get a real break. They're going to. It's a promotional thing where you can ride the 407 free or with fewer charges during those rush hour times. They say to help alleviate the 401, but it's also mostly a promotion to get.
I think it's promotional.
Well,
yeah. It's to get more people on the 407.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw this, and it is actually it was reported in the news yesterday in one of the broadcasts.
So I just like to thank Karen Fraser for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Briefly, it was put in the broadcast. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. All right. That was that. And okay. So moving on. Europe, after Zelensky had a clash with Trump in the White House, European leaders are backing him.
Yeah, it's kind of extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trump has made a deal. He's signed on to a resolution at the UN with Russia and North Korea against Ukraine, whereas the rest of the Europe made the resolution to against Russia, basically, for what they did to Ukraine. Now, I said from the very beginning that war should never have happened. And the reason why it should never have happened is because the US, the Russia, and UK gave assurances to Ukraine back in 1994. They signed a deal in January 1994 that swore that they would protect the sovereignty of the Ukraine if it gave up its nuclear weapons. Now, people like Rubio have done an about face. I added a video here about Rubio talking years ago about how important it was to protect Ukraine because Ukraine had the nuclear weapons. and gave them away for security guarantees. Those security guarantees really didn't happen, did they?
No.
The UK and the United States did not really rush in to help Ukraine when they were attacked. They did it piecemeal. They gave them weapons and that kind of hold off the Russians, but not to push them back. And what Rubio said years ago was, what are you going to tell other nations that want to have nuclear weapons? But we tell them, don't bother getting nuclear weapons because we will protect you. And he explicitly said, what if South Korea, Japan, or Saudi Arabia feel they need nuclear weapons to protect themselves, and we tell them, don't bother, we will protect you. And then when they see the example of Ukraine, where the United States said, we will protect you, and didn't. And now he's changed his tune, of course. Now he's completely in the Trump orbit and saying that, Ukraine's just going to kind of back down and do what it's told. It's shameful.
Yeah.
Now you're saying that Europe has kind of backed up the Ukraine here. Will it work?
Yeah.
The United States wants to wash its hands of Ukraine. It doesn't want to send any more bombs or missiles there, even though it was committed to this back in 1994. But Trump doesn't see any obligation to commit to anything that it was signed by the United States at any other time, which now ironically makes the United States. Are you still there, Peter?
I am here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm not showing. I don't know what's gone with my camera, etc. I'm having some difficulties with browser pages right now.
Oh.
Right. But yeah,
maybe your camera needs a heavy-duty lens.
Well, I'm going to try turning that. I'm going to try turning that on and off. See where we get to. Right. Settings.
Well, in any case, right now, the United States has turned its back on Ukraine, despite the deal that it signed with them, or the treaty of securities that gave them back in 1994. Russia broke that deal, and UK has just sort of waffled on the sidelines. They were also a guarantor of that security. Now, what is unfortunate, the France and the UK, which are nuclear powers, now have to step in and provide that nuclear cover if needed, whereas the United States looks like it's not going to do that.
And at the same time, Republican Mark Rubio was explaining how the US promised to defend Ukraine and then stabbed it in the back.
Yeah, well, he didn't. He's done a complete reversal on that, and just about said, like, Marco Rubio is calling on Zelensky to do what he's told to do because Donald Trump is a great deal maker. Shut up and go in the corner, and we'll tell you what to do. But he has in the past called Putin a war criminal. He's called Putin a butcher. He's called Putin any other name under the book. But now he kind of pretends he has never said that before. He said, well, we got to get the war ended. That's what the main thing is. And Trump is the ultimate deal maker. Meanwhile, you got to, like Zelensky's no retiring flower, basically. He is demanding security guarantees for his country. And that's what he should do. Okay, you want my minerals? We'll make a deal with you. Okay, you want this, you want that. You want compensation for all the weapons you're supposed to be giving me anyway, according to that deal back in 1994, but you don't want anything to do with that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we'll offer you some minerals and that. But we need some security guarantees. And the U.S. says, no, if we start mining there, that's our security guarantee. No, we want security guarantees because Putin has gone against any agreement that he signed thus far with Ukraine. any other peace deals they have tried, prisoner swaps. The United States is, or the Russians have taken over 20,000 Ukrainian children and put them in and Russified them in adopted homes. So they want their soldiers back, and they want that. But Putin has never obliged any of those, never lived up to them. And his point is, Zelensky says, you're getting all the Russian talking points and propaganda, but you're not getting our side of the story, and you left us out of the talks. It's very clear that the United States and Russia go to Saudi Arabia to make the deal for Ukraine. It's Ukraine's country. They should be at the table. And
and that of course is part of his big bugbear this weekend. And absolutely.
Well, the EU has kind of stepped up into the breach right now and has tried to provide the guarantees. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if left to what's happening right now, if that is to carry on, Ukraine's going to lose about 30% of its country, maybe even a little more. Those areas that it will control the Crimea and the gas fields and stuff like that are yet to be exploited in and around the Crimea. So and I posted a video on my Facebook that goes back 3 years ago that explains Russian aggression and their concerns. And it has nothing to do with humanity. It has nothing to do with human rights. It has everything to do with power and wealth.
Yep.
And Ukraine is an existential threat. I blame entirely NATO and the United States for the problem we're having today. If Ukraine had stayed neutral, there would not have been this problem.
Yeah.
It did not. It was enticed to join NATO back in 2008 by George Bush. Georgia and Ukraine were enticed to join NATO. And what did the Russians do to Georgia? They crushed it.
Yeah.
And they crushed and then they went after Ukraine, because to them that's an existential threat. That's a threat to their power. It's a threat to their security. It's a threat to their economy. The United States and Europe and all those who enticed Ukraine to become part of NATO and part of EU were the trigger factors here. It would have happened the same if Canada decided it was going to have trade relations with China instead of the United States, or that kind of thing, or try to the United States would just march up here and said, well, you may be a sovereign democracy, but we don't like what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the fact of the matter is, everybody's trying to blame Zelensky and actually blame Putin. And yes, Putin is the dictator. Like Zelensky being a dictator, what's that all about anyway? He was elected. He was elected,
but he's not re-elected, if you know what I mean.
It's not realistic because he's the war president right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hard to have an election, take
in the
resources.
Middle of a war, I know.
You have to take resources from your country and to make.
But again, I'm not. I don't hold him out as being some fantastic Democrat. He is not, right?
Well, they want part of this deal that Trump's coming up with, and Putin. They're the ones that designed it without Zelensky in the room. They want an election right away after the ceasefire. That's their attempt to get rid of him. They want him out of the picture so they can, so the United States can put a puppet in there, or Russia could have a puppet in there. It's right now the United States has the biggest problem it has is money. It's running out of money. Its debt is incredible. Yeah. Trump is what is very little spoken of is the fact the real problem Trump has, or any other president, even if it wasn't Trump, was the massive debt that it has. It
Yeah.
pays.
Oh yeah.
It pays. It pays interest on that debt more than it pays for its entire military. Its military takes 3.5% of the U.S. budget, and it pays more than 3.5% in just servicing the debt. And that debt is growing every year. The United States cannot pay its bills forever. It borrows money to pay its bills. It borrows money to pay the debt it has. That is going to be the thing that sinks the United States and all the Western economies as well. They have got themselves in this horrible situation where they could not control their spending. Now, Trump sees this, and there's only a few things he can do. He can raise taxes, which he's not going to do. His idea is to put tariffs up, which is actually just a tax on the people in a sense, because if you put a tariff on gas, your people have to pay more money for that gas, and imported gas. And so that's why I think part of the reason why he's gone after Ukraine. What can I get out of this? I can get rare earth metals out of this. I can get money from somewhere else to help pay my bills. And yet he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to give anything. He doesn't want to give security guarantees, which would cost them money. So basically, Zelensky is the weak person in the room. He's the little guy. So the two big guys are pushing him around.
Yeah, but if you go to somewhere like Quickfill or any of the other gas stations in America, you're not going you're not going to pay different for Canadian gas than you do pay for Saudi Arabian gas than you pay for American gas, are you?
Well, you will if there's a tariff on it.
Well, yeah, but you'll be paying for gas overall.
You'll be paying your price will go up because there's a tariff on it. That's just ordinary mathematics. If you bring gas into the country, gas and oil into the country, and you charge a 10%,
but what I'm saying,
tariff on it,
is
the
that
customer in that country has to pay more.
Yeah, but you go to Quickfill or Exxon or Mobil gas stations, you're not going to find that one of them is tariffed and one is not. It's going to just be
the tariff
cost of gas.
No, the tariff is not placed on the service stations. It's placed on the thing that comes into the country. So if you're paying like $2 a gallon now, and there's a tariff, right? You'll find that price will go up.
Yeah,
because
it won't go up universally. It'll only go up in proportion to the amount of gas. How much of that gas is Canadian or Saudi Arabian, etc.
Sure. If you're looking for aluminum and you put a 25% tariff on aluminum, and it makes a car part, then that car part is now 25% higher in cost, and that will go into the car, and you will be the one that pays it.
Yeah. All right.
As a matter of fact, Trump was asked point blank. I saw him how is it that you think that the tariffs are going to be paid by the countries that are exporting the goods to you? It seems to in your previous statements, the guy said, it sounds as if you're saying they will pay the tariff rather than the people in the country pay for the tariff. And he kind of avoided the question. So
I don't think he understands how tariffs work. All right.
I think he does, but he doesn't want anyone else to understand how they work.
Okay. And Niagara's NDP parties are actually claiming that they kind of upheld, because they upheld their seats, reacting to the generalized sweep towards the Conservatives across Ontario, and they won their seats because the mayoral endorsements were seen as unwelcome.
Yeah, the best line of this is Wayne Gates, who's won his fifth. I thought it was three, but it was five.
I
Five
thought it was 3, but yeah, okay.
5 elections, and Wayne Gates and of course Wayne Mayor Jim Duodati endorsed the Conservatives twice in a row now, and he endorsed Ruth Ann Newsdag. And the best line in the article is Wayne Gates, when he's asked about this, he says, "Well, just like to thank Jim Diodati because every time he endorses somebody, I win. Anyone else, I win."
Yeah.
So, like he says, yeah, anytime Jim Diodati endorses a
So
different candidate, I win. Thank you very much, Jim.
So he's basically saying, yeah, Mr. Diodati, endorse away.
Yeah, because
Right.
as you endorse, and of course, this is a resounding victory for Wayne Gates, but he did also get very lucky because the Liberals are in such shabby shape. They had nobody, none of the local Liberals had the backbone to stand up.
I think there's
Jim
been
Diodati himself did not put himself out there. If he really wanted a conservative, that would have been probably the closest you could get because Jim Diodati
I
is
think,
fairly popular.
in all fairness, the Niagara Liberal Party is in in a state of flux right now. Clearly, many people who we used to know to be central to the Niagara Liberal politics don't seem to be endorsing Liberal policies anymore.
No, I don't. Well, the Liberals got crushed after, and Kathleen Wynne, as I mentioned this here on the show before, what happens when a party gets to the point where it's so unpopular
Yeah.
that they have to get their leader out. But it's pretty hard for the leader to leave when you have a bunch of sycophants around them telling them how wonderful they are. Look how hard it was for Trudeau to step down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he didn't want to, but it was only his number two, Christian Freeland, that said, "That's it, I'm out. You really did have pushed the boundaries way too much, and I'm out." And once Freeland pulled a pin, then it was a cascade. She's a powerful, influential member of the Liberals, and once she pulled the pin on Trudeau, that was it for him. But if she didn't, he would have still been standing. And probably I was bumming about that right now. But anyway, in Niagara, every incumbent won. The West Lincoln incumbent, which is the only PC incumbent, he won, and the other ones are NDP. So the trend in Ontario did not happen here.
Yeah.
The incumbents all won. The big blue wave that
although that said,
Ontario did not happen here.
Yeah, although that said, the result in St. Catharines got a lot closer.
Yes, it got a little closer, but still, we are not going to be persuaded by what's popular.
And the thing is, Jenny Stevens, as an MPP, she's actually been campaigning hard for housing. I think she's done a lot for housing in the provincial parliament, and she's standing up for people's rights in housing.
Well, in the article, the mayors, all the mayors, Campion, Diodati, and Cisco all went conservative, endorsed conservatives, and yet the professor of political science in Brock was named Siegel. His name? I can't remember exactly. Peter.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, Professor Siegel. He's saying that's doubtful that you're going to get better representation just because you're part of the party. As Wayne Gates has endorsed all the things in the budget that has to do with the GO train, has to do with tourism, has to do with anything else like that. He's spoken up about those things. The other things he cannot indoors would be things that are limited to healthcare, closing down of the hospital in Fort Erie, that kind of thing. But he's been full on for the new hospital in Niagara, so he's actually working as a representative of Niagara, and he has a voice. Even though he's an opposition party, they have to listen to him.
Yeah.
He is the representative. He is the one that represents us. So he has, just as being a representative, gives him a modicum of respect. And obviously, the people of Ontario have a lot more confidence than him than they did with Ruth Ann Newstag, Bob Gale, or Joyce Morocco, the previous candidates that faced him, the last three.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. All right. Okay, so we got a comment. And Kip Finn says nobody listens to Gates.
Well, he's I don't know.
That may well be true that may well be true up in Queen's Park, but it's certainly not the case here.
Well, they'll have to listen to him if they think the people of Niagara are listening to him, because they can't ignore us, because that would be pretty dangerous for them. They still want to get this seat eventually, so they still have to do the things that he likes. Like, what is the point then of having different representations? Why not just have a dictatorship government? Why not have just one party and do it? Like the argument that if you don't have somebody in the governing party, if you don't elect somebody that's in the governing party, what does that say? It's essential that you don't have anything but a governing party. Then if you don't have somebody in the governing party, what's the point of having a representative?
Okay, so Randy in Chippewa is making a point that half the Liberal caucus, federal or provincial, are driving out of politics for other interests. Diving out of politics for other interests.
Well, that's especially true in federal politics, where everybody, I'm going to retire. I'm going to pull out to be closer to family and friends, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's true with some of our local Liberals, people who used to be very active in the Liberal Party locally, nowhere to be seen anymore.
Well, it was the long run of the McGuinty-Gwynn government that they can't build it back. Look what happened. And if you get into a disastrous thing like Bob Rae did when he was with the NDP and he held control for 5 years in Ontario, he was the premier of Ontario for 5 years. The distaste for that NDP government has yet to go away. I mean, it's been years now. It's going on 30 years since that's happened, and still there's a long memory of that time. And of course, it's really not completely fair to Bob Rae and his NDP, because we're going through the worst recession of the time at that time, the worst recession since the Depression at that particular time. So,
Okay, moving on. Is this report you provided, Deaths of Despair, the unrecognized tragedy of the working class? What's this one all about, Dave?
That is, I put that there because actually it's something that I've thought of for a long time, but it's also it came back to mind when I watched conservative historian Neil Ferguson talking about this, and he's talking about the sort of the collapse of society. We have, of course, we always are talking about the fentanyl crisis and other drug crisis, and why it is so bad, and we think that if we stop the production of fentanyl or restrict it or drugs of that kind, that's how we stop this. This is not how we stop this. It is very clear that there is a level of despair in the society as a whole that is driving people to more substance abuse, whether it's alcohol, whether it's food, whether it's cocaine, whether it's fentanyl. And this is especially affecting young men between the ages of about 20 and 40 years old. Young white men are dying more than should be. Uh, Even young white women, the level of despair and the idea of loneliness and inability to build their lives um, has caused many of them to go to relief of that and engage in recreational drugs. So the point that I wanted to bring mostly is you think you're going to get rid of this by getting rid of fentanyl factories and that. No, that's only part of it because the demand is there. The demand is huge. There will always be someone there uh, making a drug for that demand somehow, somewhere. The problem is societal. We are becoming more and more depressed and despondent. And this was brought up with Neil Ferguson, who is a conservative historian who I sort of like or dislike depending on what he's talking about. But
I
he,
get you. Yeah.
yeah, he compares what's happening now in the United States and the Western world as what happened in the Soviet Union after the collapse uh, of the Soviet Union and just prior to that, where the the life expectancy plunged entirely. It went way down. Um, one of the number one causes of death among men was alcohol abuse. Men were actually just killing themselves with alcohol
Yeah.
because they had so much despair and despondency. This is what's happening in the Western societies now. Our our social collapse, our sort of feeling of community. I think probably Chris Simone would agree with this, that we have a sort of eroded sense of community. People are talking.
It's widespread. I would 100% agree that we have a problem in that area, right?
Yes, and this is the source that I'm saying of your drug problem. Yes, of course, you're going to have drug suppliers and people who make the drugs and bring the drugs and export the drugs and make mass profits from the drugs.
Yeah.
But the market is there and is growing. And you can resist the importation of drugs, you can resist the production of drugs more and more and more. But as long as that market keeps increasing, as long as the level of despondency and despair among many members of our society continues to grow, you will have a continuous need for that. And it is especially among young men who are not college educated. And the deaths are going up like incredible. There's 100,000 overdose deaths, and now these are figures that go back to April 2021, and that in April 2021, a 12-month period ending April 2021, a 28.5% increase over the prior year. Most of
Yeah.
these deaths are attributed to the use of synthetic opioids by middle-aged white men. The question immediately begged is, what is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services doing about these so-called deaths of despair? Now, these deaths of despair are happening, but it is a political hot potato. The politicians don't like to talk about it. They haven't really recognized it as a real element of of what is happening so far. They resist that
Yeah.
classification, and yet these so-called deaths of despair continue. And when you have a conservative uh, historian and commentator like Neil Ferguson recognizing this um, and putting it out there, when we generally have political resistance to something like this. It takes a while for them to be able to recognize it, and they don't want to recognize it. Then you know that it's a thing. And here, the phenomenon was first explained more than a century ago. In 1897, French sociologist Emile
I was just reading through that. Yep.
Durkheim defined these deaths as anomic suicides, anomic meaning alienated,
Yeah.
in his book Le Suicide. These deaths, he argued, result from a breakdown in social equilibrium or social norms, or when individuals believe there is a lack of communal spirit or conclude the government is indifferent to their needs. That's happening here today.
Partly,
the psychological state is largely the result of economic hardship or loss of wages, something that today is disproportionately experienced by approximately 66 million white workers without college degrees. And of course, it affects men more than it does women.
And the whole point is that you touched upon a thing there whereby you were talking about people who basically were seeing as the government is indifferent to their needs, right? That's a key factor here. Okay.
Here, I just like to read it further just to give an explanation. The resulting health effects are altogether predictable: insecurity, deprivation, loss of possibilities, the lack of belonging, hopelessness. The social maladjustments led to negative emotions, including loneliness, unhappiness, worry, and stress. And these are leading people to get relief from this from using drugs. And that is a growing market for those drugs. So no matter how many times you try to hold them back from the border, if you have this insatiable market, you do. And they'll turn to anything, and they'll go back to alcohol if they can't get these drugs. So that is, if you want to stop drug abuse, then you have to address those problems in society, that despair.
Yeah, and that despair is one of the things that I think more and more commentators have been saying is killing our society.
Yeah, suicide is a forced issue. Look no further than the NRP. Well, suicide is a big deal here. When Neil Ferguson was talking about it, he said the men were committing a slow suicide with alcohol. They sort of given up on life and were going to drink themselves to death.
Yeah.
Other people just go right out and suicide. Suicides are growing among men all over the place, especially young men. So what is it? It's a detachment from society, a feeling of loneliness, unhappiness, and worry, despair.
Yeah.
Despair. And if you do not address the problem, which is despair, you will never be able to get a good handle on drugs and how it's ruining our society.
Yeah, and that despair is something that's at the heart of a lot of what we talk about here on this show on a regular basis.
And that's what's called driving homelessness too.
Yeah.
So if you now, any politician, even Donald Trump, may rage on about the fentanyl coming into this border, but where is he talking about? Why is he not talking about the despair that drives the market for these?
Yeah. Do something about that, and you can help. And you can help these people.
Yeah, it's a two-pronged approach. Yeah, we'll have to stop the drugs coming in, and Canada and Mexico better help us do that. Canada gets more from the United States than the other way around, but never mind that for the moment. But the other prong of it is, why is there such a market? Why can't we live without these drugs?
Yep. And ultimately, it's people's choice on that.
Yeah.
And as Randy said, jobs are the answer. There's no other solution, and that solution fixes all. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, and a feeling that a man or a woman too, but this is particularly affecting men, that they have a place in society, they are relevant, they have a job, and when you have a job, you have work people you work with, you're a part of a community.
Yeah.
So despondency is a real problem in our society right now, and that is what's majorly fueling the drug crisis that we have, suicide crisis, etc.
All right. And housing is the solution, says the Canary Register. And
Yes.
thank you as well for the show. All right, everybody, and thank you for your comments. They're always appreciated. I think we have to kind of cut it short of that, because you've got your kind of bingo card collection to do.
Yes, indeed, I do. I still have yet to count the cards. So,
okay.
Anyway, I was the caller last night, as 881 Slick has pointed out, and I was awesome.
Of course.
I'm going to get my Emmy. I'm going to be the first TV bingo caller in history to get that Emmy. That's my ambition.
Yeah, you can see where his troubles lie. Hey, guys.
All right. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Let's pray for peace. Ukraine.